Hi, I'm Lynda Hafner. I am a top producing realtor at ERA Key Realty in Central Massachusetts. And today's video topic is going to talk about home inspections, some of the do's and don'ts that you will do in the home inspection process. Once you have an accepted offer on a home that you love, the very next step is going to be the home inspection. So generally speaking, you have about 10 days, give or take, to get that done. Check your contract for the exact date that you need to get everything done by. And the home inspection is your opportunity to make sure that you are actually receiving what you think you are receiving. In other words, if you put in a purchase price of, I'm gonna stick with my $250, you put in a purchase price of $250, okay, based on the fact that you're expecting everything to be move-in ready, but then once you have the home inspection done and oops, all of a sudden you realize that the roof is actually at the end of the life, that's an added expense you weren't expecting. And it's going to dramatically affect what you were thinking you were getting. So these are the reasons we do home inspections. It's for looking at all the major components of the home, making sure they are in the condition that you expect them to be in. When I write up offers for buyers, I like to give at least 10 days because sometimes, first of all, depending if you're in a busy season, like in the spring market, the home inspectors, a really good home inspector, they're gonna be booked and you have to make sure that, you may have to wait sometimes up to several days up to a week before you can even get the home inspector to come to the house. So you wanna have that leeway, but you don't wanna give too much time because the seller wants you to get everything done as soon as possible. I mean, that seller wants to know that you are committed to buying their house. So that's why you only have, generally speaking, a 10-day window. It may vary per state, but in Massachusetts, that's what I normally give my clients. You want to expect to take about a half a day off work at least. Most home inspectors do work during the week and it's a long process. It can take anywhere from 2 hours to 4 hours, and if you're buying a multifamily, sometimes even a little longer than that because you have each floor that you need to have inspected. So these are all things you want to plan ahead for and make sure you are able to do that. You really do want to be at that home inspection. You and whoever else is buying it with you. You want to get the knowledge firsthand, walk through the property with the home inspector and see what issues there could be. One of the do's I would highly suggest is when you call the home inspector that your realtor recommends, because again, your realtor is your number one resource. Your realtor is the one who deals with home inspectors all the time. They know what the reports look like. They know how thorough they're going to look through the house. They're going to make sure that they recommend to you a quality home inspector. Sometimes it's worth paying a little extra for a really good home inspector. I mean, you have to remember, this is one of your biggest purchases. You don't want to skimp on your home inspector. So don't go searching the internet for, the cheapest home inspector out there. You know what I'm saying? Just trust someone who knows who's going to do a thorough evaluation of your home so that you're completely prepared and ready to purchase the home when it's time to sign the purchase and sale agreement, which will happen right after the home inspection. I got off on a tangent there and I didn't complete what I was saying. One of the do's that I think is really important is to make sure you know exactly what the home inspection is going to cover. There is a basic home inspection, which does cover pretty much, it should cover everything, all the major things. The roof, the furnace, the heating system, the AC unit if it's possible during that time of year. It will cover the majority of the issues. But there are other tests that you are usually not covered And those you need to pay extra for. And that depends on the type of financing you have and also personal preference. One of the extra tests is radon. I do suggest getting a radon test because in Massachusetts, where we are, there's a high prevalence of radon. Radon is a naturally occurring gas that, if over 4.0 and above in a basement, can actually be dangerous. And there are studies out there that do say that it can contribute to cancer in some situations, although the data is a little bit mixed on it, depending on where you're looking, but it's good to know. And there are radon remediation systems that can be purchased, $1,200 to $1,500, but you want to know if that home you're buying has radon or not, and it's a simple test, but they can cost an additional maybe $60 to $100 depending on the home inspector. So besides radon, some of the other tests you could get would be like a mold test, a water test. A water test is pretty important if you have FHA or a VA loan. Now, a conventional loan, they do not mandate a water test. So in that situation, if you have a conventional loan, it's basically just, do you want to have a water test or not? And they can be expensive. I mean, some of them are $250, $300, depending on how many things you're testing for. So these are all things you want to think about. You know, how important is that? And obviously this is in well water. I mean, town water, generally speaking, you wouldn't have to do that. But we have a lot of wells where I am in central Massachusetts. So water tests are mandatory for any home that has a well. So these are all, extra costs and of course you have to pay for them up front. The home inspection is an additional cost. It's not included in the purchase price of the home. That is one cost that, whether you walk away from the home or whether you go forward with it, that is money out of your pocket that you are going to pay. So that is something you do want to be aware of. So before you meet the home inspector at the home, you just want to make sure that you do know what the full cost is going to be. Most home inspectors expect either prepayment online or for you to bring a check with you and pay them day of the home inspection. So good information to know this right before you attend. I find the home inspection probably one of the most stressful parts about purchasing the home. And the reason is because most home buyers aren't prepared for all the little things and little issues that are present in every home. You need to go into the home inspection realizing that every home has issues. The bottom line is, can you live with them? Is it going to be a quick fix that you can just go to the hardware store and, replace an outlet cover or fix a drain easily without needing a plumber? I mean, when you're looking at the defects that come up in any home inspection report, just figure out how much it's going to cost you. If it's not a significant issue, then let it go. But if it is a significant issue, that's when you really want to reconsider, a renegotiation period. Don't expect the house that you're buying to be perfect, because as good as it looks, every home, generally speaking, has at least a couple of issues, even new construction homes. I mean, it's funny how I don't think I've ever been to a home inspection where there's not one little issue. Nothing major, but it can scare you as a buyer, especially if you've never bought a house before. And the home inspector is saying this and this and this, but you have to remember, the home inspector's job is to reduce his liability and to make sure he tells you every little defect. If there's a crack in the siding, you need to be aware of that. That crack in the siding, that could have water moisture come into it, and that could eventually lead to rot down the road. So I find that a lot of these little issues that can easily be fixed can be an issue of getting overwhelmed by buyers, and they panic, and it tends to be a very stressful thing. And I can't prevent that for you, but I can say that if you can go into it knowing that if it's something you can fix for a relatively small, if you can put a little caulk around a crack, or if you can get a replacement piece of vinyl siding for the little hole or something like that, you know, it's not something major. But you do, on the other hand, want to be concerned if, you know, the boiler's at the end of the life, the roof is at the end of its life. You know, these are major issues that are going to cost you money and affect the purchase price, the offer purchase price that you put in. And that's when you're going to want to reevaluate things and talk things over with your realtor and come up with a plan on how you want to handle it. I love home inspectors. I think they are wonderful to point out, you know, any potential things that you should be concerned about, but sometimes they are not specialists. And if there is a questionable item, a lot of times what they do is they'll say, well, you know, the roof could be at the end of its life, but maybe not. Sometimes they don't always know. And in that situation, my recommendation is let's get a roofer, come take a look at it, or a contractor, take a look at the roof and get his professional opinion, you know, who's someone who's actually specializes in that. So home inspectors, they're not specialists, so don't expect them to be specialists. Just expect them to give you a general overall view, and then if there's anything alarming that needs a further evaluation, you know, after that initial home inspection, maybe that would be a good idea to call someone in to give you a more professional opinion so that you'll know what you're getting into with your home that you're buying. The main reason I tell you not to worry too much about like little easy fixable things is because I've had buyers in the past, they get so nervous. I mean, it is nerve-wracking, and they don't want to deal with all these little things, and they'll come up with this huge list of all these things they want the seller to fix, and the seller is just not wanting to deal with that. You have to understand the seller is in the process of moving. They're moving to a new home. They're looking forward. They don't want to deal with all these small issues. You know, obviously they understand if there's safety issues, if there's radon, you know, if there's water problem issues, you know, major issues. Most sellers are pretty amenable to working. Not all. It depends. You know, it definitely depends. But sellers can, it can really maybe blow the whole deal if you ask for too many little things. And you need to evaluate, do you want to lose this house over small little issues, or do you want to focus on the big issues that are most important to your pocketbook? So these are all things, you know, that you want to consider when you're negotiating a home inspection and talking this over with your realtor. The most important part of the home inspection is that you feel comfortable moving forward with the purchase after you've gotten the results. You know, talk things over with your realtor, discuss any concerns, and discuss ways that you can make yourself feel more comfortable if there are some financial responsibilities that you weren't expecting. So basically your realtor's job is to talk with you about what is considered reasonable and what is not considered reasonable based in the market. The bottom line is, though, this is your opportunity to walk away. So if you discover something that is just too overwhelming and you can't handle it, you think it's going to end up being a nightmare down the road, then you can walk away. You can say, I just do not wish to go forward with this purchase, and you can expect to receive your deposit back. And another situation where if you have the right to walk away is if you do try to negotiate some of the things that you want and the seller does not cooperate with you to the extent that you're comfortable, you can also walk away in that situation. So my idea as a realtor, I always say, let's at least, if there is something that a buyer is uncomfortable, let's talk to the seller and see if we can get them to negotiate. And then usually that works, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, then it's up to the buyer to decide whether, do you want to move forward with this purchase? And that is the decision you need to make. So once you and the seller and the seller's agent and everyone has, renegotiating the terms of the offer based on the results of the home inspection, it is time to move on to the purchase and sale agreement. And that is going to be the topic for my next video. So please subscribe. I would love for you to check out the next video, which should come in about a week. And thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful day.